With the Dangote refinery set for inauguration in just a few days, what will be the impact on the energy sector and the Nigerian economy? Good morning and welcome to Business Week. Over the next hour, I'll be bringing you snapshots from some of the top stories and events that made global headlines during the week. And today, we're also taking a deep dive into the much-anticipated Dangote refinery launch. I'm Rolake Akinkugbe-Filani. First, let's start with a quick summary of how the European markets performed as at Friday, May 19. Euro Stoxx 600 closed at an all-share index of 468.85. It was up by 0.6%. London FTSE all-share closed at an index of 7,756.87. It was also up by 0.19%. The markets in Germany saw the DAX close at 16,275.38, up by 0.69%, while Paris ended the week at 7,491.96, gaining 0.61%. And finally, the IBEX 35 in Spain closed at 0.42% higher, with an all-share index of 9,251.5, also closing positive. To Nigeria now, at the end of the last weekday of trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 810.7 million shares in more than 5,000 deals, corresponding to a market value of 8.2 billion naira were traded. The current market capitalization of the NSE is 28.42 trillion naira. And finally, here's a look at Wall Street as at Friday, the 19th of May. And now for some top global stories. The International Monetary Fund has approved a $3 billion loan to Ghana with an immediate payout of $600 million. The country is seeking the $3 billion loan from the fund to shore up its battered economy and forge a potential path out of its worst economic crisis in a generation. The IMF said in a statement that securing timely debt restructuring agreements with external creditors would be essentially successful implementation of the extended credit facility loan aimed at helping Ghana overcome immediate policy and financing challenges. IMF Chief Kristalina Georgieva said Ghana's official creditors had provided the necessary financing assurances for the IMF Executive Board to look at signing off on the loan. In Nigeria, the CBN central bank has intervened in the current dispute between telecoms firms and deposit money banks over non-payment for the provision of the restructured supplementary service data, USSD, to bank users by service providers. Last week, telecoms operators in Nigeria had withdrawn their services to banks, causing customers difficulty in accessing mobile banking transactions that depend on the platform. These are transactions conducted on mobile phones like fund transfers through short codes and checking of bank details and account balances, amongst other services with or without data or internet services. Since the CBN's intervention, a direct billing model was proposed as a lasting solution to the issue. This would enable telcos full visibility of USSD transactions and allow them to charge their customers directly. The feasibility of the model is still being worked out by the relevant stakeholders. Telecoms firm Vodafone plans to let off 11,000 employees as reports reveal a shortfall in sales predictions. The new CEO of the firm, De La Vale, admonished the telecoms giant that it must change to end a period marked by dismal performance in its main market and a plummeting share price. The cuts will occur in Vodafone's US headquarters as well as in regional markets, the company announced on Tuesday, after releasing full-year results that fell short of analyst predictions. As telecommunications companies push to expand service to the continent's growing population, MTN Group Limited, Africa's biggest mobile phone operator, plans to build a $320 million inland fiber cable to connect 10 countries. MTN said in a statement that through its MTN Global Connect unit and the Africa 50 Infrastructure Investment Agency, building of the east-to-west link will commence in the fourth quarter of 2023. The project will add about 20,000 kilometers of new cables and interconnect over 100,000 kilometers of fiber. The Nigerian National Assembly has approved an $800 million World Bank facility, a request the institution clarified isn't a new one, and added that any decision to withdraw the facility would rest with the incoming government. The country director of the World Bank in Nigeria, Mr. Shubham Choudhury, during an exclusive interview with This Day, explained that securing the National Assembly's approval would make it easy for the incoming administration to easily deploy palliatives if it decides to phase out the country's controversial fuel subsidy policy. The World Bank chief in Nigeria said if the incoming government commits to removing fuel subsidies, the whole point of having the National Assembly approval is that it can immediately start providing relief to ordinary Nigerians. That is actually the smart thing to do, he said. Brazilian national oil and gas producer Petrobras has ditched a practice of selling diesel and petrol domestically in line with global market prices, in a significant shift for the state-controlled group under President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The decision fulfills a key campaign promise by the country's leader, known for criticizing the cost of fuel and bumper dividends paid out by Petrobras, whose market cap tops $72 billion. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has asked the federal government to suspend the planned excise duty increase on alcoholic beverages and tobacco, arguing that the headwinds in the economic environment would put more pressure on members. At a stakeholders meeting on Tuesday, MAN raised significant concerns about the provisions of the 2023 fiscal policy measures, including the record increase in excise on beverages and tobacco, and the introduction of a tax on single-use plastics, amongst others. Global investment bank Deutsche Bank has agreed to pay $75 million to victims of sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein to settle a federal lawsuit accusing the bank of enabling and benefiting from its customers' sex trafficking of young women. According to the agreement, victims of Epstein's sex trafficking, who suffered during the years that he was a client of Deutsche Bank from 2013 to 2018, would receive a minimum of $75,000 and a maximum of $5 million based on the assessment of their claims. Deutsche Bank's settlement agreement will reserve $75 million for Epstein's detractors. UK-based luxury car company Aston Martin saw its shares spike 20% in early trading on Thursday after Chinese car manufacturer Geely announced it would double its stake in Aston Martin to 17%. Geely will acquire about 42 million ordinary shares from Chairman Lawrence Stroll's Yi Tree, currently Aston Martin's largest stakeholder, at 335 pence each, and subscribe for another 28 million shares at the same price, raising about £95 million in cash for the British firm. Geely has agreed not to increase its holding any further until August 2024. Still on the UK, telecoms giant BT Group says it will cut up to 55,000 of its workforce between 2028 and 2030. The layoffs, which will include both direct BT employees and third-party contractors, will mark a 31.42% reduction in company staffing. BT's last large-scale workforce reduction saw the company announce in 2018 that it would slash 13,000 posts over a 3-year period. The announcement coincides with an early Thursday report of a 5% increase to $7.9 billion of adjusted core earnings for the full year leading to March, citing growth in its open reach network arm and consumers, which offset a decline in enterprise performance. London's economy is the best performing in the UK, according to data published on Thursday, posting the fastest expansion in the third quarter and showing the smallest impact from the COVID-19 pandemic. Output in the UK's capital rose 0.9% between the second and the third quarter of last year, outstripping the 0.1% registered nationally, according to the data for the Office for National Statistics. Output in Wales and Scotland fell by 2% and 0.3% respectively over the same period, while growth was flat in England and Northern Ireland. A 1,100-year-old Hebrew Bible that is one of the world's oldest surviving biblical manuscripts has been sold for $38 million in New York. The Codex Sassoon, a leather-bound, handwritten parchment volume containing a nearly complete Hebrew Bible, was purchased by former U.S. Ambassador to Romania, Alfred H. Moses, on behalf of the American Friends Association and donated to the American Friends Museum of the Jewish People in Tel Aviv, where it will join the collection. The manuscript was exhibited at the ANU Museum in March as part of a worldwide tour before the auction. G7 leaders are meeting in the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The group have agreed new sanctions that they say will starve Russia of G7 technology, industrial equipment, and services that support its war machine. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to join the summit via video link on Sunday. Along with the war in Ukraine, China's rising influence is also topping the agenda. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will also seek the support of the G7 for transparency around existing nuclear stockpiles. Well, that's it for the market roundup.